You're listening to the Art of Greatness podcast, episode number 27. Welcome to the Art of Greatness podcast. My name is June Allen, your sister in service from juneallen.net. On this show, I empower non-white listeners to prioritize their racial wellness and emotional sobriety. The platform is for educational purposes, is based on my experiences, and is shared in good faith. Always consult your doctor, therapist, or licensed mental health professional before applying any of the suggestions given within this platform. The vision is to build a blackalicious life of empowerment so there can be peace. Now on with the show. Greetings family, greetings. June Allen here from the Art of Greatness. Thank you for joining me today. And in this episode, I'm going to be sharing about truth. How important it is, why we can't tell the truth, and how we can begin to live a more authentic life. Now, this episode is going to be one of 7 episodes I'm going to be doing, and these are all related to the 7 keys to Black empowerment. So this one is we're going to be talking about honesty. So what do Black people lie about? Why do Black people find it hard to tell the truth? Now, first and foremost, telling the truth takes guts. It takes a lot of courage to be able to be really honest. As a Black person living under the system of racism, it is really hard to tell the truth. Now, obviously, telling the truth is hard because, quite often it involves behaviour that maybe we're ashamed of. We're scared that we're going to be judged, and it's not even just about telling the truth. It's like, well, what is actually going to happen after we tell the truth? What's going to happen to us after we tell the truth? Because once it's out there, then there's going to be consequences and there's going to be action that's going to be needed to be taken afterwards, after we share that truth. And so sometimes, all of these things that are kind of attached to the truth make it difficult for us to actually be honest. Now, as a Black person living under the system of racism, it's also difficult for us to tell the truth because there's so much pain involved in telling the truth about our situation. And so what happens is, like, denial and minimizing and not telling the truth becomes a habit. It becomes a way of life. We don't like to tell the truth about how we feel. We're not allowed to. We've been told for so long that we're not allowed to tell the truth about how we feel. Then this kind of bleeds into our relationships. It bleeds into our work. It bleeds into how we show up in the world, because we've had to kind of perpetuate this lie about who we are and how we feel about ourselves. So whether it's the truth about the external pain that we experience under white supremacy, or the internal stuff pain that we're feeling around our relationships, or whatever it is within our families, the denial then just becomes like a cozy kind of fantasy, really, because it kind of keeps us from the avalanche of pain that we might feel on all these different levels. And so the lies almost become like a virtual dam. They become the lies are a psychological dam to keep us from the avalanche of pain that we're going to feel if we tell the truth. It becomes overwhelming, or we're scared of the overwhelm. In recovery, and 12-step recovery, there's a slogan where they talk about, we are as sick as our secrets. And so, the more lies, the more denial that we carry, we're going to be more unwell. Emotionally, we're going to be unwell. We're not going to be able to show up in relationships like we're supposed to, because we're so committed to keeping the secrets about who we are. And so this then becomes an addictive process in of itself, as a way of kind of escaping the pain. And ultimately it just doesn't work, because you just become, either you become more sick because you're keeping these secrets, and the people around you don't trust you because you're not being authentic. So it's going to be hard for you to build and maintain and keep solid relationships while you've got all this stuff going on. So it is really hard to tell the truth. It's not as simple as, it's not as cut and dried as we'd like it to be, because it's so telling the truth is so loaded. When we've got the external pressures of racism pressurizing us to keep quiet about our pain, to keep quiet about racism itself, so we can't tell the truth about our experience in that, or not we can't, but it's difficult for us to tell the truth in that regard. And then we've got the internal stuff that's going on within our families and within our relationships that also make it very difficult for us to tell the truth, because we're scared that we're going to be abandoned by family members. We're scared that maybe some family members won't like what we say. We're going to get scapegoated or ganged up on if we tell the truth. And this is very hard. And this is something that came up in my recent webinar that I did for wounded daughters. I recently did a webinar called "I'm Scared of Becoming My Mother," and this was one of the things that kept coming up around telling the truth, because they were so scared that even though their mother was being abusive, they were scared that they were going to be abandoned by their families. And keeping their abusive mother on a pedestal was kind of a way of avoiding the truth, a way of avoiding the pain. That it becomes a survival technique. If you want to find out more about this webinar, there was a replay available, and you can find out more about it at scared.juneallen.net. That's scared.juneallen.net. So lying and staying in denial becomes a survival technique. And the way that we survive is we just avoid, we deny, we suppress, we minimize, we internalize it, we do anything other than tell the truth, because it becomes too much. It becomes too much. And one of the things that I absolutely love about being on this empowerment journey is that the more you tell the truth, the harder it is to lie. And the more authentic you become with yourself and tell the truth to yourself, it becomes, that's how you sort of build up your, that's how I built up my black self-respect. That's how I was able to start to build a sense of dignity in who I am, and kind of reclaim my sense of self, because I was standing in the truth. But there are different ways that you can begin to tell the truth, because again, telling the truth is not just kind of about blurting it out inappropriately. You can't just, it's not always appropriate to tell the truth to those people that need to hear it, because not everybody has the listening for your truth. And so telling the truth is not really for the other person. It's for you to be able to begin to stand in your own sense of dignity. So how can you begin to tell the truth? Well, the first thing that you need to do is to find a safe space. It's important to have a safe space for you to tell your truth, because if you end up in somewhere where they're going to shame you or judge you or something like that, it's going to be harder for you to be able to share honestly about what you need to share, what you need to get off your chest, and to share those secrets that are keeping you sick. And some of the fantastic ways that I was able to tell the truth. Number one, I've got a great black therapist. I've had several therapists over the years, but as soon as I started doing the work with a black therapist, it completely changed the game. And it took a little while for me to obviously build trust with him, and for him to kind of get to know my story and understand my patterns and all of that kind of stuff. But once I kind of build up that initial trust with him, it was absolutely fantastic. And, that hour session that I would have with him was such a game changer, because I was able to just sit in that space and tell the truth, good, bad or ugly, about how I felt about things. I mean, there were times where, I'd share things with him, shame would come up or guilt would come up. And I would just be sitting in the chair feeling really, you know, excruciating about some of the stuff that I've told him. But the thing is, like, that stuff was out of my psyche. And I love the empowerment process, because that whole thing around telling the truth was just an amazing experience for me. I have got, if you go to therapy.juneallen.net, I did do another podcast specifically about how to pick a great black therapist, so you can find all the details there. So if you go to therapy.juneallen.net, you can find some more resources there. So yeah, I absolutely love working with a therapist. I've done so, you know, ever since I came into recovery in 2009. I've always had a therapist, and obviously doing this work as well, it's really important as a practitioner to be able to have my own support network in that respect. So on so many levels, you know, therapy has been a massive game changer for me. And then also there's the recovery rooms, you know, going into those rooms to not only to share my truth without judgment from other people, but also to hear other people telling the truth, to be able to sit in those meetings, those 12-step meetings, and hear other people telling the truth. It's just been so amazing. And you know, the rooms that I've sat in that have been specifically for people of colour have been so powerful, because just to hear other black people telling their truth about things, and to hear them, it creates a different level of intimacy as well. And when you hear other people telling their truth, speaking their truth, then it gives you permission to kind of do the same, and it just really builds relationship in a way that is just really powerful. It's just really beautiful. So there might be other recovery, you know, support groups and stuff that you can find that can help you, you know, begin to tell the truth. But it's important to be able to find a safe place to be able to do it. Otherwise, it can actually silence you even more. If you have a difficult experience and you're not allowed to tell the truth, or people are judging you or shaming you or whatever, then it's going to be very difficult for you to tell the truth. So make sure you find somewhere that is safe. You know, telling the truth, there is that saying about, you know, telling the truth will set you free, but you also got to be aware that when you do tell the truth, it's probably going to piss you off. It's probably going to piss you off and slap you around the face a few times for you to really absorb it and understand it and accept it. Because the whole point, you know, the whole reason why telling the truth is hard in the first place is quite often it's something that you don't want to face, you don't want to look at, you don't want to get honest about it, because obviously, like I was saying before about the consequences. So the truth probably is going to piss you off initially, but it sets you free, because you have an opportunity to create change. You have an opportunity to make different choices about your life, because you're no longer bound by the lie that you've been telling. And you're not going to heal anything unless you're willing to feel the consequences of what's happened once you tell the truth. You've got to feel it. And I think sometimes this is another reason why people find it difficult to tell the truth, because feelings can become quite overwhelming. And for us as black people who have always been told that we're not allowed to feel anything, that we're not, you know, we're shamed for having feelings, but it's part of being human. It's part of being human. And this goes back to what I was saying before about the importance of finding a safe space to be able to tell the truth, because that safe space, you know, you find a therapist or group or whatever that is going to be able to hold you through the feelings that come up when you do tell the truth. It's really, really important. This is another thing that came up in the Wounded Daughters webinar that I did. You know, there's a lot of the women were saying that they thought that they were the only one, and that they just weren't really allowed to speak up about how they felt. And so that kept them quite isolated and being dishonest with themselves about how they really felt about the situation. And so, you know, this is really, really important for me to hear, because I know from my own story, this is one of the reasons why I felt it hard to speak up. But to be able to create this platform for wounded daughters to be able to begin to speak their truth was actually very, very powerful. Now, this webinar was only like a 2.5 hour session, but there is going to be a 6-month mastermind that's going to be coming up in March. If you go to daughters.juneallen.net, all of the information about the 6-month mastermind is going to be there. There's going to be weekly webinars. There's going to be opportunities for women to be able to share their stories in sister circles. And we're going to be learning about lots of different topics that are going to empower you and give you the tools to be able to not only take care of yourself at home, but where you can find extra support. You'll also get one-on-one support from me. So, all in all, and there's going to be a private Facebook group. There's also going to be a speaker as well that's going to be coming in talking about mindfulness and how to manage your feelings and needs. It's going to be an amazing 6-week mastermind. So if you're available, it is all going to be online, so it doesn't matter which part of the world you live in. If you can't attend the sessions live, then obviously you'll get access to the replays, and obviously you can follow up in the Facebook group and stuff like that. So if you go to daughters.juneallen.net, you can find out all the details of the mastermind there. I absolutely love that part of doing this work, because I'm still on the journey. I'm by no means perfect, and I absolutely love doing this work because it's a process where, as I teach, I also heal. And some of the benefits of telling the truth and doing this work and just engaging with other people going through the similar situations, especially with the internalized stuff with the abusive mums and stuff that I've been doing, to be able to see other people that look like me, that are in the same boat, it makes me feel, like I'm not by myself, and that I can relate to the feelings that other people are having. The identification bit of it is very, very powerful. And this is one of the reasons why it is so important to have spaces that are just for people of colour, for black people, because, our experience is very, very different from other people. And we need to have that space where we can speak up openly about our black experience without having to worry about, white fragility or white people or whatever. I recently had a situation where I was in an all black space, and there was a white woman in the room. And at the time I thought she might be white, but obviously, it wasn't my place to kind of say. I thought maybe she was mixed race or something. And I spoke to her after the session, and she actually admitted that she was white. And this was just blatant disrespect, and it was very painful because it just really revealed to me how insane racism is, and how difficult it is for black people to to set boundaries and to keep those boundaries, and that white people or the system of racism is always going to find ways to try and violate our boundaries. And so we need to keep resetting our boundaries and to keep telling the truth, regardless if white people get upset, or whether our family members get upset, or whether our community members get upset. We need to keep telling the truth about our experience so we can heal from this. And so we need people who are going to show up. It is painful when you first start showing up, because you're not used to it. It's a new behaviour. With any sort of new behaviour, there's going to be some sort of withdrawal process that happens, because it's behaviour that you're not used to. But the more you speak up and the more you tell the truth about your experience, and you have the support network behind you to process the feelings, it's just one of the most empowering things that you can do for yourself. It really is. If we really, really want freedom from racism, in both internal and external, we have to find a safe place to tell the truth. We have to begin to start telling the truth to ourselves. We have to. There's no way around it. You can't hide in economic empowerment and thinking that, building a business or whatever is going to end white supremacy. It's not in isolation. It's not. We have to start doing the internal work, and that involves being able to tell the truth about what's going on for us. Good, bad, ugly, we have to tell the truth. We have to find a space to tell the truth. And the truth will set you free. It will set you free. That's it for today's show. I will see you next time. That was session 1 That was session 1 of the keys to Black empowerment. 1 of 7 keys to Black empowerment. So the next time, on the next session, we're going to be talking about the tools that you're going to need for Black empowerment. I'll see you then. Don't miss it. This podcast is sponsored by the Yard of Greatness Empowerment Program, Build Your Blacknificence. A compassionate 6-week mastermind honouring the wounded daughters of abusive Black mothers. We're constantly told that we should honour our mothers, but what do you do when she repeatedly behaves dishonourably? Many wounded daughters cope with maternal abuse by venting to others, blaming yourself, and believing that things will change if you just try harder. Deep down, you know that these things don't work, and now you're trapped inside the resentment of being unheard. What has been the cost of that relationship? What has been the cost of you not addressing your pain? How does it impact your ability to love, to thrive? If you're exhausted by the self-doubt and anxiety around your mother's behaviour, I have an opportunity that will transform the way that you feel about yourself and the relationship. If you're scared of hurting your children the way your mother hurt you, then this space will empower you to review and recharge the way that you parent. After the success of the webinar, I'm Scared of Becoming My Mother, wounded daughters of abusive Black mothers will have an intimate, non-judgmental space to understand the wound, connect with others, and heal through self-empowerment and self-parenting. If you're a wounded daughter looking for a compassionate space to heal, go to daughters.juneallen.net. The mastermind will launch on March the 10th, 2018. I hope to see you there.